If you would like to sign up as a Democratic Party precinct delegate, if you would like to sign up as a Democratic Party precinct delegate, you'll get your name on the ballot this November. You represent your precinct. I'm sitting at that table back there. I could notarize the power for you. So if you'd like to sign up as a Democratic Party precinct delegate, just come back to that table back there and I'll sign you up.
Yeah, there's a link. Oh, I'll send you a link next time I'm for the next meeting. It works out pretty good. It's the audio is pretty good and you can see what's going on. The basics are otherwise it would be 2 hours.
About 2 minutes. And fix it to the agenda.
The whole room is trouble.
I know. Good job. Yeah.
The whole place. Amy, how you doing? Good.
You signed my petition for this one. I already signed. Yep. Yeah, I signed that. You're at the Oakland County.
Oh, okay, you sure did. You sure did. Hi, Bob.
Well, busy. We have a new. He's busy. That's fine. Meeting everybody in around the state.
You guys are on you're on the ballot convention, right? Like on the convention.
Yeah, Tiffany and I are running for re-election.
Yeah.
We're on the ballot.
Yeah,
We're on the
well, you
ballot.
have, but you're preliminary ballot.
Yeah, we gotta give them signatures.
Yeah.
Then we'll be on the ballot.
Yeah. You guys are signatures at convention too?
Can only get
That's how we are too.
Yeah.
This is my first time ever doing this, so I'm learning every.
Oh, yeah. Well, convention is interesting. Everybody's running around the footboard. The interesting thing is you can sign all the petitions. There's no limit.
I know, that's pretty cool.
I'm seeing that as you
If it's on the ballot, you can only do one. No.
Yeah, next thing is Lisa Mason, she's the secretary of the club, and Bob Bolger, that's our treasurer, Jasinski. We're going to start off today with a little icebreaker question. So our icebreaker question for today is, we're going to get together in like groups of like 4 or 5 and have like a 2-minute discussion, all right? And we're going to come back with one idea from each group and what you guys came up with is a great idea. So it is, aside from being elected, what is the biggest challenge the U.S. Democratic Party faces now or in the future? All right, we got 3 minutes. Talk amongst yourselves.
You want to tackle the topic together?
So what is the biggest I'd like to ask if you I'm all set. Okay.
Well, thanks for coming to speak to us. Swanson, really good to speak today. I've already got that. Can you smile when you say that? Are we taking over? Yeah. Can you schedule me for 11:10? Okay. If I raise my hand, it's only because that question pops up in here. Otherwise, they're not with me. So you can say like the last meeting. I went, and you were questioning, your hand was not raised, so I let it go. Right. Then I got a message afterwards. Oh, okay. I'll go do that next time. Okay. Yeah.
Leadership to bring us all together and get out the vote and get Democrats elected.
There we go. Got the vote. Democrats elected. Anybody else? What do you got, Nolan?
I guess this isn't one that came up on our group, but I think just kind of realizing that you can just do things. Not just, if we've seen anything over the last year and a half of the Trump administration, they can just do things. Not this, hey, let's coalesce around this and get working groups on this. Just do something.
Just do something. Excellent. What do you got, Joe?
Yeah, it's not just doing something. It's having a plan. It's having a strategy. It's having execution. There is, as far as I can tell, not really a solid plan except fight Donald Trump. Where is the strategy? Where's the plan? And where is flooding the zone? Because that's what they're doing to us.
So true. Joe for president. One more.
Getting back to putting people and workers first, and getting money out, getting campaign finance reform, and then building a platform that will take us 10, 20, 30 years into the future and keep winning elections based on things like the New Deal and universal health care, and the things that are going to take care of people along the way.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for all that. Yes. All right. I'm here to introduce our first speaker today. You probably all know her, Karen McDonald. She is our current Oakland County prosecutor.
Thank you. So nice to see a lot of you I already know in this room. I've been coming here since, I think, 2012 when I ran for judge. And there are people in this room that have continued to come since 2012. And this group has always been really strong. The rest of the state, just to report back from the state of Michigan, which I've never realized is so big that I did in the last several months, we have people that have actual offices, Dem groups, in communities you would never guess. Manistee County, Dem office in the middle of the downtown Main Street. All the stuff you hear about the west side of the state and they're all Republicans, it's just not true. They are showing up. We have offices, we have people that are coming out that have never participated before. Now, I'm telling you this story to give you some hope. I'm also telling it to give myself some hope. Because every single morning I have this routine and I listen to certain news sources while I'm getting ready and I'm doing all my things. And lately, this is not a routine that helps me in any way. This morning was a reminder of how the Department of Justice wants our unredacted voter rolls. Why do they want our unredacted voter rolls? Because they want every single personal information, bit of personal information that we have as a state, so that they can use that to comb through those rolls and basically intimidate and claim there's voter fraud. This voter fraud in an election system, by the way, that elected that president, right? You know there's no voter fraud. I can tell you as the prosecutor, those cases get submitted to me. And I can tell you, we have maybe 3 cases in the entire time that I've been there. And I have a rule, when you submit that, they can't tell me which party the person voted from. I don't want to know. Every single one was literally somebody calling and saying, I'm not sure if I voted absentee, can you check? Yes, or no, you didn't, they vote. And then the clerk presents the case to us. That is not voter fraud, right? So I tell you this because they don't have Michigan's unredacted voter rolls. And does anyone here know why? It's because our Attorney General went to federal court and defended that action, and she won. She won. And if she hadn't done it, they would have our unredacted voter rolls. By the way, the person that ruled in that case was a Trump appointee. So the point I'm trying to make is, all is not lost. But the other point I'm trying to make is, if we don't win the Attorney General seat, it doesn't matter who we elect up and down the ballot. With all due respect to a lot of great candidates are in the room. They're going to do great work. But they sued Jocelyn Benson. Dana Nessel represents Jocelyn Benson. The Attorney General represents every single department in the state of Michigan. And so if you don't have an AG that is going to go in there and do that and defend what is the daily motivation and effort to take away our basic constitutional and civil rights, and they're coming for free and fair elections, no question. So in the decades that people have been running for Attorney General, their stump speeches don't sound like this. They don't sound like, we have to elect this AG, our AG, because we have to defend ourselves from the federal government. But that is where we are right now. That is where we are right now. Most of you know what I do and my background. But for those who don't, I want to just take a few minutes and say I'm your Oakland County prosecutor. I was elected in 2020, and then I was reelected in 2024. I see Chris Swanson more than I see my family. But way back when, before I got to Oakland County, I did not grow up here. I grew up in a really small town called Portland, Michigan. I am from a working class family. I'm a first generation college student. My dad was a construction worker. My mom stayed at home, and they wanted to build a life for their kids and be able to send them to college, and they did that. But we went to public schools, and I got my undergraduate degree and my law degree through grants and loans, graduated from law school with about $100,000 in student debt. In between there, I was a public school teacher. And I don't say that with resentment. I say that because my motivation for getting up in the morning, not just today, but every day of my life, has been to support and stick up and fight for people who need that advocacy and can't fight for themselves. And that, right now, that's not an even playing field, by the way, if you're graduating with that much debt and those obstacles. But I succeeded, and I worked hard. I went to the prosecutor's office where I'm elected now. I prosecuted child abuse cases. I then went into private practice, became a partner at a large law firm to pay about those debts, student loans I just mentioned. And then I ran for judge in a nonpartisan race in 2012 as your Oakland County Circuit Court judge, served on the bench until Donald Trump was elected the first time, and then decided to step away and run for prosecutor on a progressive criminal justice reform. And I do want to just say one thing. Shout out to a lot of the people in this room in Royal Oak who embraced that, understood, knew we needed criminal justice reform in Oakland County. And I ended up beating the 12-year incumbent who'd been on the ballot for 40 years by 2-1 in Oakland County. That was a big deal. But I want to say something else. In 2020, people cared about criminal justice reform, and they wanted to, George Floyd had been killed, and the world was beginning in our country awakened to this is not a fair and just criminal justice system. We implemented some of the most progressive policies in the state in my office, developed and created the first conviction integrity unit. For the first time in Oakland County said, we care about treatment courts. We care why people come into the criminal justice system. We developed, and we still have a racial justice advisory council. And we are looking at the underlying reasons why people are there in hopes to make sure they're not going to stay. I'm still doing those things. Those things are still important. It appears now, though, no one wants to hear about that. A lot of people don't want to hear about that. Now I get it. We've got our constitutional rights and they're being threatened, but those things are still important to me. It is important to me because it makes sense. It is important to me because it's humane. And it's important to me because if we don't care about why people are in the criminal justice system and we don't address that when we can, then we will never ever be safer, and we can't make sure that we have fair and safe and just prosecution. So why am I doing this? Because I really like the job I have. It's a great job. I'm doing this because at this point, nobody's life will stay the same if we don't win the seat. My job will not be the same. The AG can come into any prosecutor's office. They can come into and file lawsuits and investigate. It's any division, organization, such as this one. You've heard about the attacks against Act Blue. That is just the tip of the iceberg. And right now, the biggest threat, in my opinion, is our fair and free elections. If we cannot save that and hold the line, there isn't really a future for us, right? Once he gets a hold of our election system, once he decides this is no longer going to be fair and free and we're going to control that, then I don't know, I can't see a future. So right now I believe we have to do every single thing we can. And I don't need to tell you that because you could be anywhere on a Saturday, rainy Saturday, and you're here and you consistently show up. But I'm just going to ask that you show up one more time, the most important place you can be in 2 weeks, and it's the convention. Over 1 million people are going to decide who's going to be our candidate for governor. Over 1 million people go vote when Chris Swanson's on the ballot in August. Less than 5,000 people normally show up at this convention. And it's to nominate the AG and the Secretary of State. So it's so important. I want to tell you about my campaign. Campaign's going great. I've been doing this for several months in addition to the day job that I owe to you and make sure that I do that well. But there are still a lot of threats in this county and throughout the state. And I believe that we can ensure public safety and also make sure that we protect our Constitution and deliver safe and fair and just prosecution. I've been endorsed by over 22 labor unions, starting with the former, my MEA, which I was a former member of, UAW, AFL, carpenters, the electric workers, you can look them all up. I've been endorsed by dozens and dozens of organizations and elected officials from all communities across the state and in this region, and I'm really proud of that. I've raised more money, and I have not taken corporate PAC money, over 1,500 individual contributions. I'm not telling you this because I want you to know my resume. I'm telling you this because if we don't win the general election, how I just explained, everything is at stake. And I'm just as much doing this for my state as I am for my party. The question that was asked earlier, what's the biggest threat? I'll share what I think. It's that we are dividing. We are dividing. We are dividing and we are moving into extremism. And since 2012 was my first election, and I was endorsed by the Democratic Party in that race. And I've been a Democrat my whole life. I have never seen Democrats in this party be so divisive and so mean-spirited towards one another. And I will always stand, no matter if I win or lose, and say, we don't have to lie, we don't have to bully, and we don't have to cheat to win. And that being in politics, that's no excuse. My biggest fear is that we're cannibalizing ourselves. We're going to come out of this convention with a nominee, but we have to come out of it unified. We have to unify now. You don't have to agree, but I believe you should be respectful. You shouldn't lie. And so it's the time to unite. I believe this party is still the party that there's room for all of us. I have fought for the social progressive principles in this party, and I will continue to do that until I'm no longer in politics or in leadership. But I also believe that we can't stand by and let a narrative continue to grow that we don't care about everyday people. I do. I care about the working class. And that's why those labor unions are so important to me, because the labor unions are the backbone of the working class. And our democracy rests on the working class. And Bob McDonald was working class. That's my dad. That's my dad. And I didn't really understand until I got to Wayne State University Law School how different my upbringing was than everyone else's. I'm sitting next to these people in law school, and they've all got parents who are lawyers and judges or friends and professionals, and I got nothing. I didn't know a lawyer before I went to law school. But I didn't let that stop me. But I look at it now, and this gap between the haves and the have-nots are just getting larger and larger and larger. And listen, if you have the opportunity to grow up in a home where your parents were professionals and you had advantages, great. That's great. I'm happy for you. I really am. My kids are in your same position. I hope one day they'll get off our cell phone bill. I doubt they will. But that's not my story. And you know what else? It's not the majority of the people in this state's story. It isn't. And if you don't believe me, get in your car and drive an hour and 30 minutes. Because I'm telling you, these rooms I sit in Cadillac, in Manistee, all over, Gladwin, Alma, my old alma mater, Alma College, they actually have an office too. They have an office space in Alma for the Alma College, or the Alma Democrats. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's not just the people in Southeast Michigan we have to care about as Democrats. And we can't look at you or you or you and say, no, you don't care about the same things I do. You're out of the party. We don't like you. That's how we lost. That is how we lost, and it is why I'm standing here. I am standing here because if we don't fight to say there's room for all of us at this table, because we have more at stake right now than how progressive or how middle class you are. We have our Constitution and our democracy. And one more thing about that, if you can't pay your groceries, you don't give a shit about all of those principles. That is not the time to lecture people. I've got a sister that is also in politics, and people think, oh, you must have had these politically active activists protest. No, we didn't. No. My dad got home. If we were lucky, we saw him before we went to bed, and money was a problem. It was a problem, and it was a constant worry and anxiety in my house every single minute of every single day. And I believe what I saw at my kitchen table, which was two people who came from utter poverty and decided they were going to try to work very hard to build a life that was better. They did not vote Democrat all the time. You know why? They were never going to vote for somebody they were convinced was going to make it harder for them to put food on the table. That is the reality of most of the people in this state, and I believe most of the people in the country. So my message to you is not, abandon what you care about. My message to you is understand that as a party, people have different priorities. And if we are no longer the party of the working class and the people, then who is? You know what? A lot of those people voted for Trump. And we only have ourselves to blame. So the next time you are shouting or saying something hateful on social media to other people in the Democratic Party, think twice, because we're hurting ourselves. We can disagree. We can disagree. Okay, I think it's time for questions. Or I'm looking at my boss, Sarah, over there. She'll tell me where to put it.
They got questions?
How about your experience fighting big cases?
Thank you.
Can you repeat that?
She wants to know if I have experience fighting big cases. Yeah. No, I don't. I have not argued a lawsuit in federal court. But I have handled some of the most sophisticated federal or civil cases in my experience has been private practice. And as a judge, I have presided over cases, and as a prosecutor, not only do we prosecute thousands of cases a year, I personally took part in one of the largest. I want to make something clear. Attorneys general across the state file federal lawsuits. County prosecutors do not. They have been asked to sign on or letters of support, which I have done. But that my opponent and I are equally situated in that. I also want to say that I've tried a lot of cases, and that matters too. Because when you think about whether or not you're going to file a lawsuit or take regulatory action, you want to have the experience to know what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. All right, well, we're going to be here for a bit, and my team will be here, and you know how to reach me. But show of hands, who's coming to the convention? Great, this is very impressive. Not sure if you guys heard, big historic year for the Democrats in Michigan. That list now is up to 20,000 people. In 30 days, it increased by 8,000 people. And for the very first time, under Curtis Hertel's leadership, the Democratic Party memberships, the paid memberships outweigh the free, which is a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal because we need money. The Democratic Party needs money. And Curtis has promised me, and I make him promise this like at least once a week, that you will not stand in lines for 3 hours and miss your vote. That is very important to me. So we're going to make it as easy as possible for people. So get with us if you need assistance, if you need help with parking, if you need food. That's not so much of an issue with the people in this room, but I can tell you for the people in the northern part of the state, it's a big issue. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Karen McDonald. We're gonna go with another speaker because they need to leave. So John Paul Torres is running in District 11 for Congress, and he's going to introduce himself right now. Please welcome.
Thank you. I was here last month, so I had an opportunity to speak to many of you, and I appreciated the hospitality. So a lot of people ask me, they say, you know, John Paul, how'd you get that name, right? Is that like some kind of double name? What is it, right? So those of you in this room are old enough to know that there was a Pope John Paul, right? So the Pope John Paul I became Pope in 1978 in August, and he was the shortest lived Pope that there was. He lasted a month. He passed away, unfortunately, in September of 1978. I was born in September of 1998. My mother was a devout Catholic, and she, when I was born with spinal meningitis. They thought I was going to die. I have an older brother who's 10 years older than me, and he told me, you know, it's like I watched your funeral because we're Catholic. The priest came in and he read me my last rites. So my brother always reminds me of that, and my mom always reminded me of that, God rest her soul, when I was a kid, is that, you know, John Paul, you have a purpose. I'm going to call you John Paul. You have a purpose in this life. So throughout my career, my life, you know, I've always been a servant. I've always served to try to help and to honor my mother. So how have I served? So I went to get my undergraduate degree in political science at Oakland University. I got my master's degree at public administration at the University of Michigan, postgraduate education at Michigan State University. Then went on to work on Capitol Hill. So right out of college, I went to work on Capitol Hill as a congressional fellow, and I worked on the DREAM Act, right? The DREAM Act. Why the DREAM Act, right? Because we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need a pathway to citizenship for kids that were brought here by no choice of their own. And one of the things that I thought about when I worked on the DREAM Act, which was a pathway to citizenship for kids who were brought here by no choice of their own, below the age of 30, I thought about my mother, because my mother was the first person in her family born in America. My family on my mother's side came to Pontiac, Michigan in the 1920s. Her older brother and her older sister were dreamers. They were dreamers back in the 1920s. So I thought about that in order to honor my mother, right, to find that pathway to citizenship. The DREAM Act never passed after I left Capitol Hill, and it sat in committee for years, but eventually it was used as the template for DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, right? So if I get to Congress, I want to see the DREAM Act through and ensure that we get a pathway to citizenship for those kids. Now, when I came back, I started my career in criminal justice, right? I started out as a probation officer, moved my way up to a program director, and then eventually, you know, got up to the top echelon of what you can be in the criminal justice field, in that part of the field, as a court administrator. And as a court administrator, I used my experience as a probation officer to see the revolving door of people who come in and out of the criminal justice system. People who have substance use issues, people who have mental health issues. And I knew there had to be a way we could fix it, a problem we could do is solve it. So I ended up eventually running the largest specialty courts in the state of Michigan, mental health court, drug court, veterans court in Detroit, right? Overseeing 400 participants in our programs, probationers, people who got involved in the criminal justice system, but they had issues with substance use, with mental health. Some of them were veterans, some of them were Iraqi war veterans, right? So we're giving them a way to get back to being productive members of society and building their lives back and being out of the criminal justice system. So doing that, I started looking at it and I said, you know, let's look at kids, right? Because when I would go through these caseloads and I would talk to these individuals, I would see that a lot of them had traumatic childhoods. And a lot of them were early on that path to the prison pipeline, right? So I said, I want to now work on juvenile justice. So I went on and I became a court administrator for juvenile justice. And in that, I started a mental health court and a drug court for our juvenile justice programs. And those programs were early on, get kids involved, and we knew there were two things. Everybody you talk to in the field, so tell you, bring the experts in from Harvard, Yale, Princeton, they're all gonna tell you there's two things that will get a kid on track, right? But they're the hardest to deliver. Education, right, is key, and one stable adult. That's all you need, but it's so hard to deliver. So what we did with our specialty court is we just did that. We went into the schools. I used my probation officers to go and talk to the teachers, to go and talk to the principals, to go into the home and talk with the parents. We did therapy groups with the parents. We did group supports with the parents. We did group supports with the kids. And eventually, when I left that program and when I left to go on to take on another task, we had a 95% success rate in our mental health court and our drug court for our youth offenders. But I didn't want to stop there, right? Because I'm honoring my mother, right? I'm honoring the idea of public service. I didn't want to stop there. So I said, now I'm going to go work for the State Court Administrator's Office, which is the administrative arm of the State Supreme Court. And I worked for the State Court Administrator's Office, and I worked on juvenile justice reform for the state of Michigan. So Michigan has become one of the leaders in juvenile justice reform across the country, trying to make sure that we don't put kids in detention centers, that we actually get them treatment, that we get them help, that we work with families. So I was able to go and work on this overhaul of juvenile justice reform in the state of Michigan in my career, taking my experiences of working with adults and working with juveniles in the juvenile courts. So I was really proud of that success. So now let's go back to education, right? Education is key. Education is important. I ran for school board. Been on the school board for 12 years in Waterford. When I got on the school board, everybody told me, I said, why don't our kids go to Harvard, Yale's, and Princeton's here in Waterford? People said, kids in Waterford, they don't do that. They don't go to the Ivy League schools. Well, why not? Do we challenge them? So I worked with our superintendent, and I said, let's create a program, right? Similar to an IB program, International Baccalaureate program. Let's create a program to be comprehensive, to get kids on a pathway to getting into these Ivy League schools. 100 hours of community service of the sports, and a track of high academic achieving classes, just classes that are gonna challenge you in your academics, right? And we implemented that program, and about, after the first year of implementation, it was a 2-year program. By our 3rd year, we had our first graduating class. And in our 3rd year, we had 2 students, one that got a full ride to Harvard and one got a full ride to Princeton, right? So people say something can't be done. Waterford kids don't go to Ivy League schools. They do. Now they do. So what are we going to do in the future? Right? It's all about service. It's all about service. So what are we going to do in the future? We're going to get into Washington, D.C., and we're going to do a comprehensive immigration reform. We're going to pass the DREAM Act. We're going to then move forward for the parents and provide a pathway to citizenship. They call it DAPA, Deferred Action for Parents of Americans, right? Let's get a pathway to citizenship for these kids, and let's get a pathway to citizenship for their parents. And let's get a pathway to citizenship for the many undocumented, law-abiding citizens that live in this country right now. They want to be citizens. We got to look at the big bill, right? The cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to Medicare, the cuts to the SNAP benefits that we see, right? We got to push back against that. We got to stop the $1 trillion that is given to the 1% of Americans, the richest of Americans, right? The 80% of the benefits that went to the top 10% of Americans. We're going to push all those and draw all those back. And then we got to look at education, right? We have to fully fund education. I know that as a school board trustee, right? Special education is way underfunded in this country. The Individuals with Disabilities Act is only funded to 40% when it should be 100. So we have to fight back and push back on that. I know my time is short, so I'm going to finish this out, but I appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak. I'm running for Congress. I'm not only honoring my mother, I'm honoring our community. I'm honoring all of us at a point in time in this country where we need it. We need people who are fighters like myself. People who are going to fight back against the administration, and people who have the experience that I have. I appreciate it. I thank you. I'm John Paul Torres, and I'm running for Congress.
Okay, we're going to go into, if you were on the youth summit, come on up. Let's do that real quick. So, we had the first annual youth summit, and it was a resounding success. And I can't tell you how much I want to thank all of you guys here for. So, I'm going to play a really quick video, and
for being able to put on an event like this and do it so successfully. I can't wait to see what these young leaders do.
My mother has always been in nonprofit, who's always worked in politics since as long as I can remember, and she's always been my biggest inspiration of just doing something. She across the country that people want to get activated and protesters are doing all over the place. That is a really good hope and indicator for massive change in the country, and that's what we want to do here. Everybody here is the next step forward, and we are the youth that knows what we want and how we change that. And so I would love to see how our ideas can get implemented into our government and into our policies, and how we can really make sure that our ideas are getting spoken to those older generations.
I think that there's always a personal anecdote that can be added to the way that you want to go about your everyday life and how you want to advocate for the things that you believe in. There's always more work to do, but when there's more of us, it's more effective. I'm here today because Royal Oak Dems understands the power of young people and understands that in order to have an engaged community, we need to start at the grassroots level, and that always starts with
Youth are our future. I hope that this is just getting start change, kick, and this
Oh, that last guy was handsome. And he always seems to be wearing a stupid shirt. Come on up, guys. So March 21st, we had about 50 youth come. It was held at Bamboo. It was, we had some great speakers. We had some great breakouts. We played trivia. We had bingo, icebreaker bingo. Everybody got to meet each other. It was all about networking. It was all about learning how to work for campaigns, how to do your civic duty, all this other great stuff. We could not have made it free for everyone if it wasn't for all the donations and the sponsors in this room. Charlie Freedom absolutely killed it with his ideas and his money support. OCAP and David Lauer, and I'm sorry if I'm forgetting you, or I'm going to trap. The list goes on. Thank you guys for supporting us. It was a success, and hopefully we'll do this in the future. Cameron, you want to tell us about what you thought about it?
So what I thought about in the summit was that it was I thought it was successful in building a connection between people of my generation, Gen Z, and people that work in politics now. We got to meet people, some people had, I know some of these people, but others had got the chance to meet Debbie Rosenman from Indivisible Fighting Nine. We got to meet sitting council member for Detroit, Denzel Campbell. All right, thank you. We got to meet him. We got to meet Scylla Carmelingo, the head of the Michigan College Dems, and Marcus Johnson. He works in College Dems, and then we got to speak to Adam Lacoste, who's also here for the MDP, Michigan Democratic Party. And so we all got together and were able to speak and have a pathway of like, how do you get involved? What are some of the good ways to get involved? And where can you go to get involved? That sort of situation. So I thought it was very successful, and people that I talked to afterwards enjoyed it very much and enjoyed that food is free. So.
So I woke up that morning with a big headache because I didn't know if any youth were actually going to come. But by 11:15, there were 40 or 50 people, not much older than this youth, in the basement having fun. And the thing to me was the temperature gauge that I used was the care gauge. And what I found was everybody in that room cared about what we believe in and wanted to go forward. So that was very, very gratifying for me. I want to say one more thing, though, about this guy, because he actually led us the entire way, and he listened to all of our opinions, took what he thought was reasonable. He invested money and time and his own energy in broadcasting what we were doing to many, many people that I don't know. So let's give a big hand to Clark.
Yep, and like I said, maybe we can do this again in the future, maybe a little more streamlined, a little better organized. All right, I'm going to fit another speaker in here real quick, Susan Shkreli, who is running for Michigan Secretary of State. Come on up.
Good morning. Kent County gives you 2 minutes. And I said, at 2 minutes to change hearts and minds. I'm not Obama. Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. My name is Suzanna Shkreli. I'm running for Secretary of State. I am the proud daughter of Albanian immigrants who fled authoritarianism in the Balkans. They come from modern day Montenegro, but at the time it was called Yugoslavia. And they came here in search of a better life, just like all of us did at some point, right, in our lineage and our heritage. And I grew up tough. I grew up playing ice hockey as a young girl, the only girl on an all-boys team. My mom wanted me to pursue figure skating, and I told her I need a little bit more action, so I picked up a hockey stick. And so team sports taught me a lot about what it means to lead, what it means to follow, what it means to be about something bigger than yourself. I also grew up hardworking in my parents' restaurant. We have a diner in Waterford. It's called Copperstones. We cook in real butter. We have real potatoes. We don't have any of that frozen stuff. And being with them, alongside them, taught me the value of the dollar, the value of people's time, making sure that people get what they need, right? And so those customer service values have been with me in my entire career. And one of the things that my father also taught us was to take every opportunity that this great nation has to offer. And something he wasn't able to do was get educated. And so he said, go to school, go to school, go to school. And so we all did. And at the tender age of 24, I became a prosecutor in Macomb County. I spent nearly a decade doing that work, and half of the time prosecuting crimes against children. And so I'm used to taking on the worst kind of threats in the courtroom, and I'm ready to take on a different type of threat. That threat is Donald Trump and this administration and their continuous attacks against our Constitution and our vote. Perfect timing. For the last 7 years, I served in the Woodward administration. I served as the Michigan Lottery Commissioner, overseeing a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, everything from IT to HR to marketing to sales, over 8 regional offices and over 200 employees. I also served as Director of Juvenile Justice Reform at DHHS. I served as the Child Advocate for the state, and I also served as Deputy Legal Counsel for the Governor. She called me her wolf from Pulp Fiction and sent me where the problems were because I'm a fixer and I get the job done. During my time in the Governor's administration as Deputy Legal Counsel, I had the privilege, I guess you could say, the pleasure of overseeing emergency management. And unfortunately for us, we saw a number of emergencies during the governor's first term, everything from the Midland Dam breaking to COVID-19 to the meeting of the electors in 2020. I spent months working hand in hand with the Secretary of State's office, the Bureau of State Elections, Michigan State Police to prepare for what was coming. And I wouldn't imagine that a daughter of immigrants who fled authoritarianism would be doing this, right? Preparing the Capitol with a sea of Michigan State Police because of the threats that this administration was waging against us. And that's exactly what happened. But because of our hard work and preparation, we pushed back against those fake electors, we protected the vote, and we delivered on the governor's constitutional obligations. So I'm running for Secretary of State for a number of reasons, but first and foremost, to protect our Constitution, protect your voice and your vote. We need somebody more than ever that knows how to take on Trump in the courtroom and who can beat him in the court of public opinion as well. My statewide executive experience as a leader at the lottery, overseeing such a large operation, is akin to the Secretary of State's office that is public facing, big budget, and a big job. My experience in emergency management at a statewide basis makes me ready for what's to come in 2028. Day one, I want to appoint a voter protection advisory council with legal experts and voting rights experts from every corner of this state to prepare for what's coming. We have to know if people are going to be attacking the ballot drop boxes. We have to be ready for physical intimidation at the polls. We have to be ready for misinformation, disinformation, and we need to be ready to go well before Election Day. We also need a legal preparedness standpoint as well. What motions are we filing? What boundaries are we setting with this administration? And I believe that I'm the candidate for this moment in time. Our campaign has outraised our competitors without taking corporate PAC money, without taking utility money, and we signed the League of Conservation Voters Pledge. But this office is also about customer service. I've been traveling the state hearing from people. They go to the Secretary of State's office in some branches, and if they don't have an appointment, they get turned away. We need to expand walk-in hours. We need to expand mobility units. These are the units that are meeting people where they're at. Senior centers like this one, homeless shelters, college campuses, urban areas, rural areas, as well as union work sites. If we're bringing government to you, we're doing a good job. I also want to expand the kiosks. I've been traveling the state. I heard in Alcona, a woman who worked at Kroger told me, you wouldn't believe how many people come through this line and realize that their driver's license is expired and they're able to get what they need. And so this office is about protecting the vote, but it's also about making your lives easier. And that's what I'm committed to doing. I also want to push forward on a digital driver's license. There's over 20 jurisdictions. Better than the sneeze or whatever. There's over 20 jurisdictions that have this. It's time to get up to date. I heard from a woman from Kent County, her mother had died. She flew to California with a passport, didn't have her license and couldn't rent a car. She said it caused her a bunch of stress. And if she would have had her license on her phone, her day and her week would have been so much better. How can I make your life better? That's the key. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say this, and I'm going to be so for real with you. This office is too important with what's happening right now for it to be treated like a consolation prize. We need somebody who wants to be in this office, who's laser focused on administering the duties of this office, who's focused on this office and not about what's next. We need somebody who can faithfully execute the duties of this office and be present. And I think that's me, and I'm asking for your support April 19th. Now you can clap. One question. I have not enough time. I mean, that's the type of efficiency we're bringing this case. Yes, sir. I have been listening to people across the state, and I'm in favor of it. I think it's going to make democracy better. It's going to bring more voices into the fold.
Repeat the question.
Oh, the question was, how do you feel about ranked choice voting? Okay. Yeah, and so you know, it's funny. There's so much support for it in these bubbles across the state and rural counties as well. And so you know, I think we'd have to work with our clerks to make sure that we're helping them and that they have what they need to administer it. But I'm in favor of it.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to skip high school dems because we don't need to. We're going to go into precinct delegate. We're going to talk about precinct delegates real quick. Oh, you know what, Deb, come on, you're up here. Come on up. So Deb's going to tell us, she's going to give us our treasurer's report and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, treasurer's report, our savings is $7,655.99. Our internship fund is $705.08, and Royal Oak Rising has $111 in the kitty. I have the money out of politics petitions. Now, you know, there has always been two petitions. One was Invest in Michigan Kids. They've dropped that one, and they're going to do it again in 2 years, so stay tuned for that. And money out of politics is still going. They have adjusted their time frame, so they're going to go from like end of November to end of May. That means that anyone that signed before Thanksgiving needs to sign again. So I have two boards here. I'm going to circulate one on each side. Probably you signed before Thanksgiving, so please sign again. And let's hope they could sue.
Question. Last weekend at Grand Circus Park, I was presented with the money out of politics. I thought I had signed, and he had an app on his phone that could tell him whether or not I signed before or after the deadline. I don't know where they came from, but it sure was handy.
I will check that out. This is, yeah, I will check that out.
Yeah, because for next weekend or for the convention,
That'd be great, yeah. They have paid collectors now too. So in addition to the volunteers, they're asking for paid collectors to do it. So there'll be more of them out there.
Thank you, Deb. I will give us a little update on precinct delegates.
Hi, I'm William Asher. I'm the precinct delegate liaison for the club. I'll keep this real short. I'll try to anyway. We're closing in on the deadline for submitting affidavits to become a precinct delegate. The deadline is May 5th. Our club has 154 allocations. We can have up to 154 precinct delegates, which is as many as 11 in some of our larger precincts. The more you have, the less work there is for each precinct delegate, whose job is to basically reach out to individual voters, Democratic voters, encourage them to vote, inform them about Democratic politics, and basically increase our margin. What I'm concerned about is that Royal Oak is likely going to vote for Democratic candidates for governor and attorney general, et cetera. We're going to vote Democratic, but we want to squeeze out a marginally extra number of votes just within Royal Oak to offset deficits that might occur in other places in the state. Anyway, we have 154 plus slots to fill. Currently, there are 47 precinct delegates from 2 years ago. About 25 have re-upped, these as of this morning. So looking for any of the existing precinct delegates to please renew. Go to Tom in the back, Tom Regan, his hand is up, and fill out an affidavit and become a precinct delegate candidate again.
If you aren't already a precinct delegate, please consider doing it. It's a fulfilling task, makes you feel good, helps you learn about your neighbors, and that's about it.
Tom is a notary, and he will help you fill out your form and notarize it. And then if you want to fill it out today, we will get it to the county for you. All right, next order of business, we're going to invite someone up who's from Genesee County. He came a long way to speak to you guys, to introduce himself. We're talking about Chris Swanson. Welcome, Chris Swanson.
Everybody knows a moment in their life where something happened and it changed your direction. It changed how you thought, it changed your position, your job, it changed your family. Moments are part of our life. And when I look at the signs and I talk about racism across the state and domestic control and what ICE is doing and what we're seeing everywhere we go, those are moments in our history that right now, with momentum, it's going to take us one direction or the other. So you're right. I came from Genesee County. I travel the state like everybody else does. Anybody who's running for office has courage to do it because they want to be part of that moment. But moments without momentum create nothing. Moments with momentum creates movements. And when you have people in this room like you who have not only just raised your hand to run for office, but also came here to coalesce together as a group, as a party, to be part of that momentum, to go to conventions when you know you can't have lunch with certain friends and family members because of political reasons, that you've lost friendships over the last year and a half. Just like Karen McDonald said, the division, when those things happen, pain drives people. We learn more in the storm than we do in the sun. I'm a sheriff. I'm not ICE. I'm white. I don't need to be all things to all people, but I can serve the Black community. I can come from Flint and know what brokenness and poverty and pain looks like. And you can either sit back and just watch, or you can do what you and I are doing right here today and say, we're going to do something about it. Jocelyn is my friend. We have restored people's lives in jail. We have given driver IDs. We've given voting privileges to people in jails. We are two Democrats running for governor. Government and those in the Democratic Party cannot beat each other up in order to make one person look better than the other because of pointing out things that are making different. I don't operate that way. You won't hear me say anything negative about Jocelyn. I haven't in 14 months. She's an option, not an opponent. That's what the Democratic power is. There's people in this room that want Jocelyn. And I will tell you this, and the fact that if you watch the last 14 months, this race has been not only just inspirational, but it's given people options. I'm a different Democrat. 4 months from today, August the 4th, is my election. And this state will choose somebody to go and represent them in the general. And when you come from a city like I do, in a community, you travel, you see that the pain that people have is different. But there's one thing that I do see across the state, wherever you are, is there's more that brings us together than that divides us. And so when I run on Protect, Serve, and Unify, I'm protecting what means the most to you. I'm protecting your people, your businesses, your rights, who you marry, body autonomy. I don't want the government making a decision about my body, and I bet you don't want the government making a decision about yours. I'm going to protect people's communities. I'm going to protect the churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, and those that worship however they worship. I know what it looks like to target a church. On the 28th of September, the LDS church was targeted in Flint, Michigan, outside in Grand Lake. 4 people lost their life. 9 people were seriously injured because of an ideology. And what drove that? Hate. Everything on these signs. The only way for that to just stop is to put people in the gap and say it's not going to happen. We're going to stand up. And the only way to get to those people is to raise them up from the ground. And that's why you're here. That protect part of it, listen, that is why a sheriff who's been battle tested for 33 years, I've picked up broken pieces of people's lives. For 28 years, I've been on faculty at the University of Michigan Flint, teaching in public health. for 28 years, for 33 being a part of a dues paying union, understanding what the working class is. For all these years, when you see this, you have the ability to do your part to protect what means the most. Education, environment, working with Dana, working with Lisa Washtenaw from LCP. We're talking about water crisis and contaminated water in Flint. I'm almost done, Carl, I'll be done in a second. I will tell you this. I protect people, and I'm gonna protect you, and we're gonna do it together. And this administration will look like people in this room. And I'm gonna serve people like a servant leader. When you do this and you pour into people's life, there are people that need you to be their voice. They need you. I know this because there's somebody in this room that's very important to me who has just celebrated sobriety. And I'm not going to point them out, but they know who they are. And the way that they got through this is because somebody poured into their life. And they're going to pour into someone else's. So I just want you to know, there's someone here that's very, very special that got through some difficult times because they were served and now they're serving other people. And the third thing is that unity. When George Floyd was murdered by somebody who looked like me, I should have been the last person the Black community asked to walk with. But people see people's hearts. They see authenticity. I'm not perfect. I swear in all things holy, I'm not perfect. I don't check everybody's box. I look different, you look different, but I do know this. Unity is not uniformity. Doesn't mean we need to be all alike. It just means that we need to walk together. And there's no time better than now to have a choice of who you're going to represent in November that can win the office of governor. And to trust that the authenticity to listen to people, to learn from people, and to lead people is the reason why I thank Sharon, I thank Mimi, I thank the people who hold me accountable. Because I promise you, I may be the governor, but I don't know all the answers. I know the people who do. Those closest to the problem have the solutions. This will be a moment in our history as governor that the country will see, and we will bring Protect, Serve, and Unify back. I appreciate you. My name is Chris Swanson. I am the sheriff in Flint, and I love people. If you need anything, Swanson from Michigan, Google, you'll want a rabbit trail. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Carl, I know you do this for the fame and fortune. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you. Thank you. Trust me, Carl runs it like a business, so it's only going to be two. Let's go. Yes. Yes. Okay. Or comments? Yes, sir.
When I was born in 1961, the rich had a disproportionate share of the economy. But today, the super rich have an obscene, grotesque proportion of the economy. What's your opinion on the gap between the rich and the poor, and what would you do about, as governor, to address it?
It's a big question. I'll be quick. That gap was put there intentional, because when you divide, you can control. If you look what's happening from the national level, the more that they push division, they can control their side. So the only way to do that is to elect leaders, create businesses, create opportunity to close the gap. Because if you don't, the gap will widen. The way you do that is to empower the people. That's why this is a party that doesn't kiss the ring of an individual. If you're on the other side, you couldn't run for school board unless you pledge your allegiance to one person. We didn't like that. The only way to break that is to put executive leaders in there. They're going to break it. There's a reason why a sheriff took on the cannabis issue with 24% tax, because it created a divide. It created a separation. There's a reason why I step in the gap when there's race differences, because you need somebody to step in there to create a unity, not division. So increase the affordability, increase the ability for people to have opportunities, whether it's small businesses, support small businesses, like all the other candidates here. No DTE money, no consumers money. I ain't get paid from a data center. I'm not doing any of that. How come we do it pretty stuff? So the way to do it is to raise up that bottom to overtake the top. Close the gap. Long answer. There's much more to that, but that's it. If we don't put good leaders in there, it's going to continue to go. Last question. Yes, sir.
How do you defeat the Republican in November?
Great question. How to defeat the Republican in November or the independent? Rapid fire. Chris Swanson, two-term election, 5th county in the state. That's the biggest. Genesee is the smallest of the 5. Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw, Genesee. In 2020, when I ran as sheriff after the walk, I got a crossover vote that set county records. 2024, I was asked to do a commercial for Joe Biden. When we did what we did in Flint and we compared what happened on January 6th, I did it in full uniform. They put $50 million behind the commercial. It aired on a Wednesday. He debated on a Thursday. We all know what happened. He's out. 11 days before the DNC, I get a call from the White House, Kamala Harris, Chief of Staff. We'd like you to speak at the DNC. What would you like me to speak on? Hope, unity, and law and order, just like we talked about it. I said, absolutely. I want to do it in full uniform. When do you want me to speak? Day 4, prime time, 9:15, 20 minutes before she takes nomination. I knew 23 million more people are going to watch. I knew when I walked on stage that I would lose family and friends, but I don't care. I do the right thing. My message was from my heart. I walked up there. 3.5 minutes later, I walked out. My life changed forever. I lost people forever. I had an election in 2 months. I had an opponent in 2024. With all of that, Michigan is a purple county. I got a 30% crossover even after doing all that. What I tell people in November of 2026, if you have a candidate that's a strong Democrat candidate that can take the people that are on the right that are looking for something different, and the independent that's there has no base, and you can grab some independents, 5-10% of the right, 5-10% of the independent, and the entire Democratic base, we win double digits. If you don't have a candidate that can pull from the right, pull from the independents, we lose. Thank you very much. Don't mess with Pat.
All right, I did not do the microphone. All right, let's get into candidate reports. So if you're, I'm not sorry, not candidate reports. Before that, we're going to get to elected officials reports. Natalie and Jeremy, you guys want to come up? They can give their report together. Can you guys get in 3 minutes? 3 minutes.
Thank you. Natalie Price, State Representative for most of Royal Oak, and pleased today to be able to do this with Jeremy Moss. So as you guys know, Jeremy is the state senator, doesn't represent Royal Oak, but a very nearby area. And one thing I want to tell you about working legislatively with Jeremy, he has been a great partner. Every month he does community conversations in Southfield and Bloomfield Township, and my current district overlaps with him there. And I get to show up in front of Southfield residents, Bloomfield Township residents, and we get to talk about what's going on and hearing every month from a point of view of a state senator, how things are going in the Senate, being able to share what's going on in the House. We both come from local government, so we care a lot about making sure that our municipalities, our local leaders are getting the support that they need. We talk about that. I'm on appropriations. Jeremy's a policy expert who's been doing this work for a really long time, so we always learn something from each other, and it's just been a great partnership. So very pleased to bring him up here to do a legislative update today. So we both represent Michigan in Lansing. I'm going to let Jeremy get started by telling us about some of the bills that we have to combat ICE in the state of Michigan.
Yes, thank you. So I think we're all horrified with what's going on with federal immigration enforcement, and Congress has a duty and an obligation to defund ICE as an agency and disband it altogether. We're doing everything we can at the state legislative level to rein in ICE's terror in our communities. We have seen these proposals pop up throughout Michigan. They're taking people from Minnesota and planting them here in Michigan. There's a proposed detention facility in Romulus. There's a proposed office for the administrators in Southfield. Many of you have joined us with the protests outside of both facilities that we've led. And in the state legislature, we're pushing proposals through the state Senate that we will get to the House, and we're going to depend on people like Natalie to be loud in their advocacy for these bills. And I'll name them for you because it's important you know what they are and what they do. They are Senate Bills 508, 509, and 510. I'm a lead sponsor along with 2 of my colleagues, Senators Chang and Kavanaugh, on these bills. My bill would ban and prohibit ICE from wearing masks for the purpose of concealing their identity. And would require them to wear identifiable uniforms. It is shameful what is going on, but even more shameful that they're hiding behind masks to conduct this lawlessness in our street. Another bill would protect safe and sensitive and protected locations from warrantless and lawless ICE raids. That includes our schools, that includes hospitals, that includes places of worship, that includes courthouses. You know, they talk about people going through immigration the right way. There are people that are meeting their appointments and going to court and going through the immigration process. And ICE is exploiting that and showing up at their court appointments
to snatch them and take them into detention. It is shameful. The third bill is to protect all of our sensitive and protected information, data about us, data that's housed in the Department of Health, data that's housed in Secretary of State's office from warrantless ICE misuse and abuse. So we're doing everything we can. Our bills got out of Senate committee. When we return to Senate session, we expect those to be on the floor and demonstrate that Michigan is not going to tolerate ICE's activities here in the state of Michigan. So we're moving forward on those.
Well, we have time for our questions about what's going on in Lansing. Okay, any questions for me or Jeremy about Lansing? Yes, in the back.
I have a question. I recently learned that they're using block cameras in Oakland County, and they're talking about the drone issue. Is there any sort of legislation to fight back on that? I'm really worried about my privacy and then knowing everything.
I share your concerns about flock cam. So the question is that we hear that there are some flock cameras being used in Oakland County. I just attend, what are flock cameras? Surveillance cameras, it's a brand specifically of surveillance cameras. So law enforcement uses these to keep track of where you are, where you're driving, using your driver's, your license plates, and so the argument for them is they can be very effective if there's like a Amber Alert and then we have a license plate, that all the flock cameras can be watching all the streets in that area and looking for that license plate. And the people who promote installing these in our cities say that since these can be very effective for like an Amber Alert or a missing person, that we should have them and then we should use them for that purpose. And then we should only store that information for a very brief amount of time, and that it's possible to do it. But the problem with Flock, especially this brand, is when you look at the fine print of what they say they're doing and not doing with it, it is impossible for us to legislate that, to keep them from being able to share and use that purpose with powers that we would not want to be able to track us in that way. Is there anything you want to say more about Flock?
You know, Ferndale, as a city council, is going through the process to write a city ordinance to add safeguards and even prevent this type of surveillance within the operations of their community. I'm sure Royal Oak and Clawson can also engage with Ferndale on how they're writing their ordinance.
That company is owned by Frontier, and that data is stored and saved, and you don't know how they're going to use it. I think it's terrible. They can memorize when I go to work, when I go to the local store. It's horrifying.
I agree. So and again, I think there are different brands and ways of doing surveillance, and I think Flock has a reputation of being especially concerning because of the ownership and the potential for sharing that information, not just within the United States, but outside of the United States. So very concerning. I don't. Palantir, so a military company, entity, yeah. So this is an area, this surveillance and AI that's moving very quickly, and there's a lot of calls to action for us to legislate it as much as we can in Michigan. And I'm here for it. You guys have heard me say month after month, like, Matt Hall in the House, he models his behavior on Donald Trump. A lot of these things, including, sadly enough, as loud as I will be in the House to support Senator Moss's fantastic, rule for ICE not to mask, to need to identify themselves. We all know how important that is. I can nearly guarantee that it's not going to be put on the board for a vote because of Matt Hall.
What do we need to do in the House?
So what do we need to do in the House? We need Democrats to have the gavels back so that we get to set the agenda, so we can put the votes on. That is all the legislation that has been being worked on. And it is, I don't want to discount the importance of Senator Moss and the other senators doing the work and working it through the process and having these bills in the great shape that they can be in, so that if and when we get the gavels back and we can set the agenda, they are ready to go. We're still going to have 2 months of the Trump administration, even with the trifecta. We need everything ready to be able to protect our residents against these attacks. So, yeah.
All right, any more elected officials, currently elected? Lauren, you want to come up? All right, Lauren Jasinski, Royal Oak School Board.
Hey! Hey, everyone. My name is Lauren Jasinski. I'm one of your school board trustees. I just wanted to speak real quick about the Oakland County millage. There was some news reports about it over the last week or so. And I just wanted to clarify kind of what that is and what you'll be seeing. So there are several counties across the state that have what's called a countywide enhancement millage for schools. This is an additional millage that everybody in the county would pay. It goes into a big pot that goes to the ISD, which is the county level school district. So in our case, it's Oakland Schools. And then that pot is distributed 100% evenly to every student in our entire county. We have the way that this has like come forward, like the behind the scenes process that's been happening over the last couple months. Get ready for some math. A majority of school boards that represent at least 50% of the students plus one student in the whole county had to agree to put this forward, had to ask Oakland Schools to vote yes on this. We've tried this in the past, we've tried to get this enhancement millage onto the ballot for the last almost 3 cycles now, because Wayne County has had one of these for over 8 years. And we haven't been able to reach that threshold. We haven't had enough school boards in Oakland County think it was a good idea. We finally crossed that threshold about 2 weeks ago. We finally had enough school boards vote yes, that this is something we want to put forward to our voters. Oakland Schools School Board approved it about a week and a half ago, and it is now going to appear on the ballot for voters to approve. So it still has to be approved by everyone. It is a new tax. There's no getting around that. It is a new millage that did not exist before. But the 2 things that I do want to tell you about it that would benefit us greatly here in Royal Oak. The thing that is really, really exciting about a potential enhancement millage is that there are hardly any strings on how we can spend it for our students. So even the renewal or the bond that we've been talking about locally here, one of the things that our superintendent always says is that we can spend it on things that if you flipped our schools over and shook them and it doesn't fall out, that's what we can spend money on, right? Infrastructure, technology, the physical needs of the building, the safety of the building, all of those things. But anything that falls out, staff, students, programs, content, right, curriculum, we can't spend it on that. Thank you. Thanks for liking my little. And the enhancement millage has none of those restrictions. So we can spend it on student programming, we can spend it on teacher raises, we can spend it on things that are really, really important to the health and well-being of our staff and students, which is really exciting. We can spend it on transportation, which I know is a big issue here. So it's just a really exciting amount of money that we could potentially have. The thing that there is criticism about is that because it is an equal tax across the county and an equal dispersal of the amount of money, there are districts that are going to pay more into that pot and receive less. That is just a fact of how diverse this county is. Royal Oak would be about even in terms of what we are contributing and what we are getting back in that case. Our full board is very supportive of it. You will hear us talking about getting it passed and encouraging it to pass across the state, because anything that goes into schools benefits all of us. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. There were some news reports about it. There's already, of course, people against more taxes. We get it. But until schools are fully funded at the state level, this is what we need to do. Any questions about that? Yeah.
What is the millage increase?
$1 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah. About $100 a year on $100,000 taxable income.
The November ballot?
This one will be August. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Both this and our school bond will appear in August. Anything else? Okay.
The school bond is it was gonna be finalized, so it would be available on the website.
Yep, our school board is voting on it on Thursday to put it forward, and then all of the language will be public at that. and that's no increase. Yay. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Last up to the first row, we have Meredith Peltonen from Clawson City Council.
Hi, thank you for having me. So we had a couple things in Clawson. I don't know if you've paid any attention to, we've had a lot of attention on our meetings lately because Council member Rinkovich has exercised her First Amendment right to protest during the Pledge of Allegiance. So we've had a lot of attention given to us. So we would like to see some more attention in the positive light and supporting our rights, if you don't mind. Speaking of that, we did have a little last minute pop-up protest on Saturday. I liked just 14 in Maine. We had about 30 people show up. I just texted the city manager the day before and said a handful of us will be outside with signs. It's very peaceful. It's really nice when people can just, instead of having to drive to Ferndale or Troy, which were great protests, and I think everybody should get a chance to do something big like that, but it was really powerful being at home in our hometown and seeing how positive the reaction was. The honks and the cheers were so outnumbered any negative. So that was great. And then about the flock cameras, Clawson has had flock cameras for 2 years. We have recently flipped our council, so we are not as accepting of them. So we will be having a presentation on April 21st at our meeting by Flock to kind of convince us why we should renew their contract, which comes up May 22nd. So we have heard some people in our city are in favor of it. So we would like to see the presentation. So that'll be April 21st of the plan there. That's all I have from Clawson. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to get into candidate reports. We go state level, then we go state judges, county, then boards like WSU, MSU, U of M. Okay. Let's do 3 minutes with let's do 3 minutes. 3 minutes. All right. So who wants to go first? From state level, Barb, you want to come up? I'm sorry, federal. Who's, we have federal? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Jeremy's right here. I forgot federal. And Don, so Don, go ahead.
I'll be 3 minutes or less. So I'm speaking at a future meeting, so I can speak a little bit longer about our campaign for Congress. I'm President Pro Tem of the Michigan Senate, and have represented half of the congressional district that Haley Stevens is vacating, including Royal Oak and Clawson, in the Michigan Senate. Unfortunately, I haven't represented Royal Oak and Clawson. I think that we can flip the U.S. House of Representatives and put the check on I need to send a tested and trusted leader to do so. I was the campaign co-chair in 2022 that flipped the Michigan Senate to a Democratic majority, and we passed some of the most consequential Democratic victories that we've seen in my lifetime. That includes things that I had a leading role with. I was a founding member of our gun violence prevention caucus a decade ago, and our majority passed the first gun safety laws that are saving lives here in Michigan. I'm also, we can talk it out. I'm also the first LGBTQ person to serve in the Michigan Senate and wrote the bill that put LGBTQ rights in the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. Our elections committee, which obviously our prosecutor mentioned how consequential safeguarding our elections are in this moment. We fought against the 2020 lies and misinformation and conspiracies, and I wrote the bill that implemented the 9 days of early in-person voting that we enjoy here in Michigan and ease of access to absentee ballots. I've become an expert on election law. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get into this fight against the SAVE Act, against the attempts to federalize our elections, in support of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Because I don't want to get, shoot off the stage here. We have a stronger, tougher, bolder Democratic Party. We can no longer show up to the knife fight holding a pie chart. I am somebody who represents a new generation of leaders needed to get into this fight and flip this U.S. House to a Democratic majority. We're running a wide coalition in this campaign. I'm endorsed from the grassroots to the governor. We're endorsed by Gretchen Whitmer, Jocelyn Benson, Dana Nessel, 60 local elected officials from this district, labor unions, including the electrical workers, the Teamsters, the sheet metal workers, the laborers, the carpenters, and more, gun safety advocates like Gabby Gifford's PAC, LGBTQ groups, because I would be the first LGBTQ person representing Michigan in Congress if elected. So that's my time, and we are going to talk more in future meetings. So thank you very much.
Hi, Don. Thank you. Hi, I'm Don Ufford, running for the U.S. House of Representatives here in the Michigan 11th. And I'm an engineer, builder, husband and dad, and I'm fighting to make things better for Michiganders. And that starts off with making sure I don't have influence from corporate PACs, utility PACs that are out there. I'm not taking that corporate PAC money. I'm going to fight against that because that's wrong. We need to make sure that we can trust the people that are in office, and we need to make sure that the people are fighting for everybody here and all of our constituents. I grew up on a farm. Dad worked in a factory. That enabled me to go off, get a good college degree, and come to work at Ford Motor Company. I love that. And my wife and I raised 2 kids here. After that, I went off to work in the Biden administration, U.S. Department of Commerce, on the CHIPS and Science Act to bring real jobs to Michigan, to make sure we can make stuff here. And then I went over to work in the Biden White House on the EV transition to make sure our small and medium businesses had the ability to bring the clean energy transition here until Trump came along. Trump comes along, I left. It's horrible what Trump's doing. I'm going to fight back against that, and I got a plan to do that. And my plan includes, number one, building things here in Michigan because we need good jobs. We need to make sure we got strong education in order to educate people, to build those jobs, to build things here in Michigan for all of us, good union jobs and good entrepreneurial jobs, building up small businesses. We need to make sure that healthcare is protected. I'm going to fight to protect healthcare. That's important to me and my family. My wife got a heart transplant. Her recovery is only possible because of the Affordable Care Act. We got to restore cuts to Affordable Care Act, Medicaid, Medicare, and make sure we got a public option so people have health care. Lowering costs. Lowering costs, as I'm out there talking to people, doesn't matter what age group, where they are, you're running out of money. It's a problem. We got to lower costs. We got to protect our freedoms, fight back against this SAVE Act that's killing us out there. Make sure we protect our civil rights. Make sure we can speak up and speak out. And we need to make sure we address this wealth gap. The wealth gap is a problem. There's too much going to the top. We got to make sure we have fairness in who's paying for good government. And that means those that are making the money got to make sure that we're paying for good government here. Those billionaires, they need to chip in. And finally, hold this administration accountable for their lawless acts that are going on out there. This administration is creating lawlessness everywhere. When I'm in Congress, I'm going to vote to make sure that we impeach those agency leads that are creating lawless acts, fight back against this Iran war that Trump has started. We have service members that are dying, and we don't know why, and we don't know how long this is going to go on. That's totally unacceptable. We need to fight back against that and hold Trump accountable. I'm Don Ufford, running for the U.S. House.
All right, Byrum, for Secretary of State.
Thank you so much. Hello, the Dems, I'm back. My name is Byrum. I'm running for Secretary of State because Michigan needs a secretary who's ready, willing, and able to defend our democracy on day one, and I'm that candidate. I'm the only candidate running for the Democratic nomination that has election experience. I've conducted 42 elections in my capacity as county clerk. I was fortunate enough to implement all of the sweeping changes that we all passed and put in our Constitution, whether it's 9 days of early voting, same-day voter registration, permanent AV list, drop boxes, all of those things I've had the opportunity to implement as county clerk. I've also had the opportunity to cause a little bit of good trouble. I know I told you all last time I was here that I performed the first same-sex marriage on a Saturday morning after a federal district court ruled in favor of equality. Thank you. I issued 56 marriage licenses that day. I've caused a little bit more good trouble as well. I know I told you all last time that I'm the only candidate. Well, last time I had 2 opponents, but now I have 2 different opponents than I did when I talked to you last time. So, hi, I'm still in it because I've always wanted to serve. Election administration is my passion. It's not just a job for me. It is a passion of mine. I told you last time that I was taking on Donald Trump. 2 months, and last month we found out that we won. So Donald Trump in January of last year signed an executive order, the SAVE Act. Before it was cool to be in opposition to the SAVE Act, I was in opposition to the SAVE Act. And I rallied election administrators from around the United States to sign on to a brief with me in opposition. And we found out that we won when a federal district court ruled that the president of the United States does not have the authority under the U.S. Constitution to dictate how federal elections are ran. We knew that, his advisors knew that. Now he's signing. Now he signed an executive order to eliminate mail-in voting. We know that as absentee voting over my dead body. Will that happen? 1 minute, thank you, sir. So I did not drink enough coffee. So I have been a fighter. I don't just talk about standing up to Donald Trump. I take him on and I win. My background, county clerk for 13 years, state representative for 6 years in a competitive House district. During that time, I was silenced on the House floor for adding an amendment to regulate vasectomies during an omnibus abortion ban legislation. I also owned and operated a retail hardware store for 20 years. I was raised in a different hardware store. I understand customer service. I understand work ethic. I'm the only candidate running for the Democratic nomination that's conducted an election that's successfully been elected every single time. My name has appeared on the ballot. I am a scrapper, you can tell. And I have been very fortunate to be endorsed by dozens of current and former county and local clerks, because clerks know, just like we all know, that our elections are under attack by Donald Trump, and we need a fighter and someone who actually knows election administration backwards and forwards to fight back. I ask for your vote at the convention on April 19th. That is a Sunday. Please come. I ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
That was good. All right, speaking for Ellie Savit is Adam Woodhouse.
Hi, everybody. I am not Ellie Savit. He's much cooler and taller than I am. But yeah, Ellie Savit's running for Attorney General. He's currently the Washtenaw County Prosecutor. He came and spoke here, I think, a couple months ago. So I could give his whole spiel that I've heard a million times and I can recite in my sleep. But I'm going to talk a little bit from my own heart on why I'm supporting him. I'm the former College Democrats president statewide, had that position throughout all of 2024. And obviously losing that election was incredibly upsetting. But what was most disheartening was that in that position, I was fighting my own party more than I was fighting the Republicans. And as a young person, you know, I know this. Most people are surprised to hear this. And there's a reason why young people fled the party as much as they did in 2024. And you know, I've been doing elections and campaign work since 2020, almost consistently. And I made a pact for myself going into 2026 that I was going to work for a candidate who was truly worthy of my time and my effort and saw me as, you know, not just valuable for him getting elected, but valuable for the future of the country. That's why I'm supporting him. In 2024, when people were not showing up for College Democrats, Ellie did every single time, even when not asked to. He was always there. And, you know, I'll speak to this too. I currently have a team of just around 60 interns, college and high school age. And about half of them have never been involved in politics before. They came to us, they came to Ellie because they see a future in this country and in this party that represents them and gives them a pathway forward. You know, we talked about, you know, what are some big problems facing the party? We talked about division within our own party. There's division within our own party too, because people feel ignored by our party. We need to change that. Young people are flocking to Ellie Savit because they know that he represents a future that they want. They know that corporate money needs to be out of politics. Ellie has never taken a corporate PAC check and never will. He knows that utility money owns Lansing, and he has not taken any money from utilities, their CEOs, their lobbyists, or their attorneys, because he knows that is a corrupting influence in politics. And he knows that this party cannot be moderating for the sake of moderation. We need to be done with that. Because when you meet a fascist halfway, you are halfway to fascism. And he understands that. So I ask you to support him on April 19th at the convention. Please come and join us, build a better future for folks like me and for folks all across the state. So thank you.
I don't remember everybody's name, so when you guys come up, introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Judy Pritchett, and I am running for re-election to the State Board of Education. Thank you very much. Tiffany, Tilley, and I were elected to the State Board for the first time in 2018, took our oath of office with Gretchen Whitmer on the steps of the Capitol, January 1st, 2019, and we have been busy ever since, making sure that all 1 million plus students in the state of Michigan have equal opportunities to a public education. That has not been easy in all cases, but we continue to sit at the board table, and this is what is in our gut when we make decisions or we make comments or we pass resolutions. Public education is the cornerstone of democracy. That's it. It has become apparent, and especially since Donald Trump took office, that people want to whittle away at that, just like they want to whittle away at our voting rights and our other fundamental rights. We are not going to let that happen. Thank goodness we have had an attorney general, or we have an attorney general who's not afraid of a fight. And while we've been getting edicts from the administration in Washington about DEI, about students can't do this, about that particular agency not being funded anymore, Dana Nessel on our behalf has been pushing back, and that we appreciate. I come to you with over 25 years of public education experience. I was a high school teacher, and I appreciate the high school Democrats. They are our future. We need to nurture them. We need to support them. And I'm looking for them to take over for us in the very near future. And I feel good about that. You should all feel good about that. So I was a high school teacher, became a high school administrator, served as a superintendent, and before I retired was at the ISD level. That was all in Macomb County. So I'm going to put in a plug for your enhancement millage. Macomb County has an enhancement millage also, and it is extremely helpful in keeping children and districts on an even par with funding. So I would endorse that coming from across the county lines here. So as I said, Tiffany and I have had our battles. Right now, the board has 8 members. That's by constitution, 6 Democrats and 2 Republicans. We have to keep that balance. If it goes 4-4, they won't be able to pass business minutes. I guarantee it. I'm going to invite him on board, Tiffany Tilley.
Good morning, Royal Oak Dems.
Good morning.
We're headed into one of the most important midterm elections of our lives, so I need you to say it with more vigor. Good morning, Royal Oak Dems. Judy and I have been fighting for all of our children across the state. My name is Tiffany Tilley, and I currently serve as your co-vice president on the State Board of Education. We've been fighting for all of our children across the state in over 800 public school districts. From when I first got on the board, and Benton Harbor, they threatened to close down the one and only high school in that community. I fought back against the governor. I stepped away from the state And I'm happy to say that that one and only high school is still open today. I fought for our foster youth to change laws and policies for them, and I've been successful. And the laws and policies that have gotten changed is going to help them for generations. Rural areas, we have so many transportation issues and the digital divide in the rural areas. So we've been fighting for that, and CTE. There are CTE deserts, career and technical and education deserts, including across our state. Every child deserves to be able to graduate with either an associate's degree or a trade certificate. Some of our children can't wait to get to work. So if they have to graduate from high school and get into the job field, they need to be able to do it with having a good paying job. So they need trade certificates. We've also updated our social studies standards. We've updated our health standards and sex standards and included minorities in those and the LGBTQ community in those, and made sure that they have the dignity that they deserve when students are learning and reading history. And the Detroit literacy case. I stepped away from the board, from the governor, and stood with those kids to say that they have the right to read. We went to court. I'm happy to say I was on the right side of history, and they won that lawsuit. They deserve the right to read, and all of our students across the state. So we have been fighting very hard with literacy, fighting to make sure that our teachers have letters training, and that there are early interventions for our students, and that there are literacy coaches in every building. Fighting against Trump. Trump came in rigorously trying to cut funding for DEI and everything else, and we've been advocating against that. And we have, you said what?
3 minutes. Can you wrap it up?
Yes, and we've been fighting against Trump. We have a kick-butt attorney that has helped us, Dana Nessel, I'm happy to say. We need your support at the convention, April 19th, and please vote for us in November. Tiffany, Tilley, and Judy Pritchett. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelly Tebay. I'm running for re-election for Michigan State University trustee, along with Brianna Scott, who's on Zoom, but she's not able to be here today, so I'm going to be doing 3 minutes for 2 candidates. So, Brianna and I ran in 2018 for Michigan State after what was going on with Larry Nassar. It was both of us, our alma mater. It was disheartening to see the leadership that was taking place at Michigan State. We both put our names in the hat. We ended up winning, and I'm proud to say that we've accomplished all the things that we set out to do, but there's still more work to be done. So some of the promises that we made when we ran the first time was talking about the culture at Michigan State. What was going on with accountability, how we were protecting our students. We've been able to create the Center for Survivors, which is a model across the country for a place for survivors to go to get medical care, counseling care, navigation through the entire reporting process, whether they want to report, whether they don't, whether they want to involve the police, whether they don't. So that's one thing that we set up. We've also invested a lot more into that office, particularly around making sure we have staff, making sure the process is going quicker, also mental health support for our students. Another thing that we promised and worked on was affordability for college. Obviously, there's a lot more work to go in that space, but one of the things that we were able to do in the first couple of years, we froze tuition. That was really important to us to not raise tuition on our Michigan State students. Unfortunately, with COVID, there were a lot of budget constraints. We weren't able to do that post-COVID, but one of the things that we've been able to create at Michigan State is the Spartan Advantage, which is if you are a Michigan student with a household income of $65,000 or less, you can come to Michigan State tuition free. One of the things that we want to work on if we are lucky enough to get reelected is expanding that. Housing is also, room and board is another issue with students. That is a huge barrier. That is a huge cost that they have to take on. We'd like to expand it. We'd like to continue to work on how do we get a better funding model for Michigan State, because the state of Michigan keeps giving us less money, so tuition has to keep raising. If it's a problem, we're also competing with our K through 12 friends for money. We have to fix that model. We cannot be fighting our K through 12 friends for dollars for higher education. Lastly, I want to bring up, we were able to, the students, okay, 1 minute. Okay, I got, one of the things we were able to do in 2021 was pass a resolution that allowed for administrative neutrality and the card check process to be used at Michigan State. Since that has been implemented, we have 3 new unions on campus. And we're going to continue to grow in that because it's so important that our employees, our faculty have a voice at the table and we can continue to give them competitive wages and the benefits that they deserve. One last thing I want to bring up is something that Brianna really helped champion was the Multicultural Center at Michigan State. The students and the alumni have been advocating for that for decades. Brianna and I went to U of M, who had a multicultural center. We toured it with our colleague Paul Brown, and we came back and we brought that to the board and we got it passed and built. And so now Michigan State has a multicultural center for our students in the middle of campus. It's bigger and better than U of M, and it's a big green building. So there's a campus, who comes in? But there's a lot of work to be done. We have that stability at Michigan State. It was been a rough 7 years, but we are on the right path, and Brianna and I are asking for you to join us on April 19th and vote for our re-election. So thank you so much. Kelly Tebay Zemke and Brianna Scott. Kelly Tebay Zemke, and then Kelly Tebay Zemke, and then Brianna Scott. Thank you.
All right, come on.
Hello, I have to reduce my 60 years living on this planet in 3 minutes. So my name is Shereef Akeel, rock the Casbah, Shereef Akeel, or Shereef doesn't like it, that's just kidding, you can try. You have to say your name 3 times, I have to say it like 10 times, but I am running for Wayne State University Board of Governor. I've been married for 36 years, I have 5 boys, couldn't make a girl, I know it's the male disability, but that's it. I love the boys. I grew up in Sterling Heights, we graduated from Sterling Heights Stevenson. I went to University of Michigan, got my bachelor's in economics, went to Wayne State. I'm an alumni, got my MBA, and then picked up my CPA after that. Then I went to Detroit College of Law, and I became a lawyer, graduated in 1996. Practiced law for a while, then September 11 hit. For the next 30 years, my career changed, and I was suing the government left and right. I'm going to tell you some names, Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld. I was, at that time, I was challenging the Department of Homeland Security warrantless seizures. This is when ICE was created. Now everybody knows about ICE. I've been suing ICE for 30 years. Then Trump 1 came, the immigration ban came. We sued Trump, we won over that. Things were okay. Now Trump 2, and things are a disaster right now. Now my practice is half my practice representing exonerees. The other half is representing whistleblowers. But what's happening is seeping into the campuses right now. That's why I'm here. Regarding, first of all, that our international students, we know what ICE is doing, and they're going into it. That's causing a reverse brain drain. People aren't going to come here anymore. And we saw what Columbia did. They capitulated, caved, violated the due process rights of those students and turned on records. But we saw how Harvard stood tall, fought against Trump, and won in court. That's why, with my constitutional background, I want to do that for Wayne State, which is a hub. 1 minute. The main thing about Wayne State right now is a challenge is that it's a hub for first-generation students. Unfortunately, the graduation rate is 36%, while the national average is 70%. We need work to do. We got to have more of these kids who rely on Pell Grants to graduate in 4 years. They have challenges at home. We have to work on that. Also, the union, collective bargaining, is weakening at the federal level. It's going to hit the campuses too. So I want to be able to work there and protect these union workers, especially their right to assemble, protest, and associate. So I ask for your support. You remember my name? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Shereef Akeel. A strong Wayne State, strong Detroit, is a strong Michigan. Thank you very much.
All right, Madam Chair, come up.
Thank you, Carl. Good morning, good morning. Good, thanks, Lisa. My name is Amanda Chapa. I'm running to serve you and support you as your next state senator. Before I get into everything, really quickly, to your question about flock cameras. So at every community conversation we've had, someone has asked in the entire district, and you can legislate it. There are 9 states currently. Yes, there are blue states. There's California, there's New Hampshire, but there are states like Arkansas, Tennessee, that have legislated it. And you do that by trying to balance between civil protections as well as like criminal responsibility. So some of them have done data restrictions saying you can't hold information more than 30, 60, 90 days, or restricting and legislating, like you can't, this kind of goes to the Ferndale City Ordinance, but you can't use it, you can only use the license plates, but you can't use facial recognition, things like that. So there are many options, and we definitely need people, to my point about running for state senate, who think that way, who think creatively, find the loopholes and find ways to get things done for you. So we've been running a very successful campaign, knocking thousands of doors. Thank you, Carl, for offering to give me a chair. Our legs are sore, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't need a stool, but I definitely need a belt, yeah, for my pants. But it's been fantastic, and Karen and Chris really, brought it up earlier. When we've been knocking on these doors, there are people who don't even know there's an election, coming up. They don't know. Because their lives, you can't look past if you can't pay your bills, if there's things going on in your child's school, if you don't have the right resources, what are you gonna give a damn about an election for? Because you already feel like you're not being listened to. So in all these doors, and also as we've gone in and we have secured and have the support of multiple labor unions now, and I'll be proud to drop those in the next couple of weeks. But we've been saying, we need real people in office who not only have the professional experience, if you run my resume in AI, I'm a 98% match for state senate, kid you not. There's like two things that I haven't had an elected office title, and I haven't voted to be able to pass a budget. Thank you, 60 seconds. So they want people with professional experience, but also real people. I'm a real person. I work. I got into this because I went through workplace abuse into public policy to do things differently, to protect our communities and make things better. And you don't want just people who can push yes on a vote. You don't want fighters anymore. We need gladiators. Gladiators had to fight in the ring like their lives depended on it. Because our lives do depend on it in Lansing. We need something different. Because every time they took a hit, they had to get back up. They had to be strategic. They had to do everything they needed to do to survive. I promise to be that for you as your next state senator of this district in Lansing, to protect this incredible, diverse district that has Jewish Americans, Arab Americans, LGBTQ, Black, brown, everybody in between. If they want to try to come for this district, they're going to have to come through me first. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. If you'd like to knock doors, you can talk to Luke, who's sitting around here. I was sitting right here. To knock doors, but thank you so much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And happy Easter. I know we are all waiting for tomorrow. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Royal Oak, the Area Democratic Club. In a beautiful day like this, when you were supposed to be staying home and have breakfast, but you are here because there is a reason why we are here. There is a lot of chaos going around in this president's time where we cannot stay home, we cannot stay aside. We need to come together and build us together and get ready to fight in November and then set up for 2028. My friend, there is no better time than this time to run for any office. I'm running for Wayne State Board of Governors. 36 years ago, my name is Dr. Naz Hassan. 36 years ago, when I came to America with nothing but a hope, little but a hope, that hope was an American dream. But today, after 36 years, what I see, and that hope is fading away, not for a person like me, not for the immigrant communities, but also the Americans everywhere. People are struggling to buy groceries, pay rents, sending their kids to college for higher studies. My friend, when I came to America, I was supported by people like you to continue my education. My students, the teachers and faculty members and the community members. And that's another thing that why I want to run for, give back and run for Wayne State Board of Education. My friend, growing up in a family when my father was a professor and then later on a public servant, and saw him how he changed people's lives. He brought funding, built schools and colleges in the village area, rural area, where the girls could go to school, otherwise they would be forcing to get married. And that helped him, to make a change in people's life. My friend, Wayne State needs a bold leadership, where right now we need to make sure that Wayne State is affordable, accessible, and inclusive for all people, doesn't matter what is our background. And with all these programs on DEI getting cut, we cannot afford to do that. We need to continue all the DEI programs. We need to expand scholarships, the grants for the students. We need to retain their talented teachers so that they can teach our kids and get them ready for higher studies. And also we need to bargain, have a collective bargaining for our service employees, the union members at Wayne State, because they are the one who is keeping the university running and functional. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward for your support. This is Dr. Naz Hassan. I'm running for Wayne State Board of Governors, and I'll see you at the convention on April 19th, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
I promise we're getting there. We're almost, the end is in sight. Name's David Lauer. I'm running to be your next state representative for 6th District. It's all of Birmingham, Beverly Hills, a wonderful chunk of Royal Oak over here, Berkeley, Huntington Woods, and a sliver of Southfield. I want to give you a quick update, and on behalf of all the organizers of the Ferndale No Kings, I want to say thank you all for coming out. It's a lot of familiar faces, and know that we give yourselves a hand for coming out. We contracted a drone that day to get a final count, and we surpassed our 7,200 mark from No Kings 2.0. So No Kings 3.0 was even more of a success, and it was more of a success because we brought communities together. And that leads to a really interesting point. So I have been a community organizer for many, many years, and I have a background in disaster relief. And let me tell you something, we're in disaster right now. Not only our democracy, but our state. And you better bet if I can organize 175 volunteers on the ground in New York during Superstorm Sandy, with 6 feet of water coming down, a nor'easter, which if you don't know, that's 90-mile-an-hour winds with 6 feet of snow at the same time, right? It's not the most ideal conditions to be organizing volunteers, but I will bring that same mentality to the House. If I can organize 175 on the ground there, 118, no problem. What do we need to do? We need to unite our House again. We need to unite our party, re-energize, reinvigorate, bring people back to just these amazing practices and this amazing unity we used to have. It's there. We can have it. I'm going to keep it short. David Lauer, District 6, ready to be your next state representative. We'll see you next time.
Hello again, State Rep Natalie Price running for State Senate in the new 10th District, which includes all of Royal Oak. Very proud to be here in our community today and thinking about community as the antidote to all of the attacks that we're feeling outside, right? Joining together, we felt it in No Kings, and I want to let you know I am feeling it out on the doors. Last time I was in front of you, I told you about my fellowship program. I now have these 5 Royal Oak High School students, a sophomore at University of Michigan, who are now putting their training to use, sharing their stories of self out on the doors, connecting with voters, and getting people to engage, getting people to talk about why they care about the issues, how those issues are impacting themselves, their families, their neighbors. And now that the weather is broken, yesterday, opening day, beautiful, and I was out on the doors for 5 hours of it, and it was gorgeous. And it was about community and connection. I heard stories, heartbreaking story of a man whose daughter's best friend had been killed by gun violence and how his daughter became a very effective advocate. Grateful again for the anecdote for attacks to be stepping up and serving and advocating. Devastated for that family that they had to go through that. Heard from a man who's afraid to travel outside of the country because he looks Mexican. His mom was Mexican. His mom was also born in the United States, right? But he's afraid he won't be able to let back in. So we talk about the heartache, the fear, and then transition to what can we do about it? And thrilled that he signed up to join us on our next shift. That is what I want to ask you to do for everybody who showed up at No Kings, who felt the positive force of being together in community. Show up, find a campaign, join in. My information about all of my upcoming shifts on the doors, which is every single day this week, I will be out there. Please come join me. It's at votenatalieprice.com under events, the mobilize link. Sign up to come and join me on the doors and knock. Rain or shine, I'm out there, and I find it to be a really positive experience I would love to share with you all. Thank you.
And now we turn to the judicial branch, the boring part. My name is Jeff Nielsen. I'm here on behalf of my wife, Lisa Nielsen, who is seeking an open seat on the Oakland County Circuit Court. It's going to be a family court seat. Lisa and I, between the two of us, have 6 kids, 9 grandchildren, and one of whom I think you probably know, Brandon Colo, is her oldest, and I know he's on the royal commission. He's a good young man. Thrilled to have known him for 20+ years. One of the, and by the way, to our state friends, just remember, I got my Michigan. We're all working together for a Buckeye Free America. In any event, judicial candidates really are up against it because they can't really tell you what they're going to do. They have to say, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to be fair, I'm going to be nice. The advantage or difference that my wife has is that she sat as a family court judge in Wayne County for 10 years. She actually has a record that she's proud of. And one of the things she's most proud of is we decided to get close to our grandchildren, is she decided to go back to the University of Michigan and get her master's in social work because she understood, seeing firsthand in Wayne County, the challenges that families and children were having, and that the court system by itself is woefully incapable of really addressing these long-term needs. And that's why I couldn't believe how much work she did. But again, she can't tell you what she's going to do, but she can tell you what she has done. And one of the final cases she had that is so memorable was a case where there was a couple in a custody dispute. And there was a child, 16, 17 years old, who was transitioning. To say that the mother was non-affirming is a far too understatement. She was openly hostile. She was a horrific human being. And my wife studied it, getting the science base, learning, frankly, what attorneys did not do, to understand the risks of this child. And the final analysis, she stripped the non-affirming mother from any legal or physical custody whatsoever. So that is an example that, yes, you may hear, well, how did she get in the bench? Well, yes, Governor Snyder appointed her. But keep in mind, the broken clock is always right at least twice a day. So in any event, she has demonstrated a record of children first, looking out for their best interest to ensure that they and the parties that appear before her are treated respectfully, civilly, with a judge. She wrote a 75-page opinion in that case I just referred to, which was unanimously affirmed by the Court of Appeals. And she's had other cases where she's made tough decisions and then years later find out how a child changed the trajectory of these children's lives. And that's what she's dedicated to, is the best interest of the children. And Oakland County, frankly, she had a liver transplant 13 years ago. A lot of people would have said, well, I'm going to cut back done, but no, she's committed to that kind of public service. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victoria King, and I'm also running for Oakland County Circuit Court Judge. I've been here a couple times, so I think you guys have heard a little bit about me. I am a practicing attorney. That is required. My job right now is to advise the judges. I started out advising the Honorable Leo Bowman for 11 years, went in private practice for a couple years when he retired, and then I came back. And now I'm advising 20 circuit court judges, 7 visiting, on all areas of the law. Talk about a person with a background to be able to step in and do the job on day one. That's what I can do for you here in Oakland County. I understand what it takes to do this job. I understand how it should be done, and I know where all the parts of the courtroom are, how to run an efficient courtroom. I went to law school when my kids were 2 and 5. They're now 23 and 20, and I have the third boy as well, who's going to be a senior. No, he's going to be a freshman at Athens High School next year. So I understand what it takes to take care of those 3 boys and get them out and about and living in the world. I understand what's in the best interest of the children. I've been doing the job, and I can continue to do it. I also like to beat the clock. So I'm being challenged right now to make sure I beat the clock. I do have 2 friends with me, Amanda and my mom's friend, Pat. They have petitions. I'm still looking for signatures. I've got cards at the back, and I am happy to have you guys look at the website, see my 10 endorsements from sitting judges and retired judges right now, who also believe I can do the job. And I beat the clock. Thank you.
Thank you. I will also keep it short. I'm here just to give another brief update. There we go. Brief update. Last time I was here last month, I let you know that I was applied for an appointment for a probate judge position. Also, I'm also running for a probate judge position. I did not get the appointment, so I'm continuing on with my campaign. Yay. So I'm just here to let you know that my campaign is running. As I said before, I've already filed my signatures with the state. I am on the ballot for November. So I hope that you vote. And to let you know that I have a meet and greet coming up on April 17th at Sidetrack bookstore right in Royal Oak. The owner is a very good friend of mine. It's a discussion on why your vote matters and why you should get to know your probate judges. So please come see me, and I'd love to talk to you more about probate. And I'm going to hand it over to my campaign friend, Emily.
Hopefully not just your campaign friend, but like friend. So my name is Emily Korish. I'm Elizabeth's friend. And the rules for judicial campaigns are a little bit different than the general election. So she's not allowed to ask for money. There are no rules that say her friends cannot ask for money. So I am here letting you know there is a QR code here. If you'd like to donate, she would very much appreciate anything that anyone can send our way. She is up against a legacy candidate, but we also know that Elizabeth is the only candidate. So with the experience. So there are cards at the back, QR code, and you'll be seeing a lot more of me.
All right, almost done, guys. While Lisa comes up here, I got a couple announcements for you guys. Bar night is the third Thursday of the month, as usual. This time we're going to have it at Hopcat, which we've been before. We're going to have that private room that we had before, and also I think we're going to play games if you want us to play some games. If you don't want to, park cleanup for Earth Day. We're going to do our usual Cummingston Park on April 25th. I'm going to have a sign-up sheet. Look for your next email, and there'll be a sign-up sheet for cleaning up Cummingston Park. Lisa's going to talk about, we're going to have a table at Earth Day Farmers Market.
Yeah, for the loyal people still left, you're the people we probably need to sign up to help us out at our Earth Day table. We just want to get people interested in the Democratic Party, in our club, and in voting. And we have a game plan that'll be fun. So if you'd like to come out for just an hour and a half to help us out, pass that around and sign up to help. And come out and enjoy the Earth Day activities and support our table.
Yeah, so Earth Day should be, it's being put on by both the county and the city at the farmers market. And so at our table, we're gonna have a prize wheel that you can win prizes, just to get the club's name out. People can win some swag, some cool swag. Yes, I'm sorry.
To say April 18th from 4 to 7 p.m.
All right, club t-shirts are for sale. I will have the email out early this coming week. I'm gonna put everyone who you spoke to today, I'm gonna try to get a link so that you can do more research. Because obviously what's almost as important as the front, I shouldn't say almost, as important is the back with all the judges and the nonpartisans. So make sure you guys educate yourself, educate the people around you. So we gotta get the other side of the ballot done. That is it for me. Does anybody have any other new business they want to bring up? Don't forget, we have a notary here who will help you fill out your form and sign your PD so you become a precinct delegate. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Elaine, second by Paul. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys. All right, if you have protest, we're going to go out to 12 Mile in Woodward right now in the drizzle, and we're going to protest. Come on up.
I'm gonna go talk to Tom.